Okay, today we're learning about the 8 moon phases. Now before we can start drawing the moon, we have to first have our sun. So I'm going to go ahead and put our sun over here in the corner. And then of course to have the moon, we also have to have the earth. So we are going to draw the earth right here in the center. So here's the earth with its land masses. Okay, after we do that, we're going to place our 8 moons. Now, our moon travels around the earth, and as it moves around the earth, that's how we get our different phases. So, here are our 8 phases. The first thing I want you to do anytime you're drawing the moon phases is label the sun and the earth. And the word I want you to remember for moon phases is the word snef. Not really a word, kind of a made-up word, but if you can remember snef, this will get you set up for your moon phases. S stands for sun, and E stands for earth. Now, the N and the F are 2 of our most recognizable moon phases. It's the new and the full. So if we write the word snef, it would be S, N, remember for new, E for earth, and then F would mean full. If you can line up snef, S, N, E, F in a row, it makes labeling your moon phases way easier. So the first thing I want you to always do is after you have your new moon, I want you to start an arrow from the new and make it go all the way to the full. And then I want you to take another arrow from full and all the way back to new. This is how the moon orbits the earth. This is the direction. Remember, in space, everything moves counterclockwise. So we draw our revolution of the moon around the earth in a counterclockwise direction. After you're doing this, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to label our waxing and waning. So when we learn about the moon phases, half of our moons are waxing. And when your moons are waxing, that means your light is on the right. We always wax first. So where we have the new moon, where our arrow is beginning, this side is going to be our waxing side. And what that tells us is the light is on the right. So as we go through and draw these moon phases, we have to make sure that all of these moons here, our light is on the right. Now the opposite happens here after full moon. And we call these our waning moons. When we have a waning moon, that means our light is on the left. So we have waxing first, full moon, then we wane until we get to new moon. Part of this that's important for you to know is that when we're drawing these moons, we are going to leave white, the color of the paper, the sections that are going to be lit up by the sun. The dark part, the shadow that we're going to actually be coloring, is the part that is not receiving light from the sun. Remember, our moon phases aren't caused by the shadow of the earth. They're caused by the light of the sun. The shadow does not cast, the earth does not cast a shadow on the moon. It's just only parts of it get lit up depending on where its orbit is around the earth. So as we start here, our new moon, when the sun and the earth are in line and the moon is in between them, that is what is called a new moon. And from our perspective on earth, it's a completely dark moon. It's completely not lit up, which means the back side of the moon, the part that's facing the sun, is actually getting all the sunlight. And so we are not able to see the lit up side. As the moon orbits around the earth, we start to see a tiny sliver of the moon lit up, and we call that a crescent moon. Kind of like the word croissant, if you guys have ever eaten a croissant. It's just like a small C, or some people call it a toenail shape. So we just have a tiny bit here. So this is our crescent moon. After that, we get about half the moon lit up. And what we call this is our first quarter. Because a quarter of the moon is lit up. Even though it looks like half, it's really only a quarter because we always only see 50% of the moon. So only half of that is lit up. That means we have a quarter. And the first quarter, the light is on the right. Then over here, we still have the light on the right over here, but it's about 3/4 to a little bit more full. And we call this a gibbous moon. After our gibbous, we end up with a full moon, and that means that the light is completely shining on the entire part of the earth or the moon that we can see. So it looks like a completely bright moon in the sky. It's the biggest amount of light that's received. After that, as it begins to come back towards the new moon, we start to lose some of the light. So here the light was growing. Now the light is going to start waning off or fading off. So now the light is going to be on the left. So here we have 3/4, maybe even a little bit more of that moon showing, and that's also a gibbous. See how they're the same? Gibbous. Here we have the same thing as here, just opposite. So our light is on the left on this side. And instead of a first quarter, it's called a third quarter. Or sometimes you'll see it referred to as last quarter. And that just means the light's on the left, halfway lit up. Then over here we have the same thing, a crescent. It's just on the opposite side. So you can see the pattern here. Our light is growing as we wax on. Full moon, we start to wane off and the light is shrinking. So as it's growing, it's on the right, that's our waxing side. And as it's shrinking, it's on the left, that's our waning side. It's important to also note that the crescent moons, the smallest moons, are always closest to the new moon. And our biggest moons with the most light are always closest to our full moon. Another fact about our moon phases is that it takes about 29.5 days for our moon to create a full cycle, which we also call about a month. So it takes about a month for us to get through our entire lunar cycle. There are 8 phases. Each phase lasts roughly 3.5 days. So you could easily calculate if we have a new moon and we say, what's it going to be in 7 days? Well, 3.5 times 2 is 7. That's 1 week. So each week we go 2 moon phases. So what's it going to be in half a month or 2 weeks? Well, you just count it over. We have 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. 3.5 days per phase. Okay, if you have any questions, ask your teacher.